For those in the audience, getting to know you for the very first time, care to share where you were born?
I was born in New York City, man. Brooklyn, New York.
And care to share where you were raised as well?
I was raised in Brooklyn.
And do you still reside in Brooklyn today?
Not right now. I'm just moving around, touring, stuff like that.
Was it an official age you left Brooklyn?
Yeah. I'd say around 15.
And was that when you started moving around?
Yeah, that's when I started moving around. I went to Queens. I stayed with my dad. My mom used to live in Brooklyn. My dad stayed in Queens.
And what was the reason for the move there? At
Uh,
15 for you in your life?
15, at the time, my mom had wanted to move, so, she wanted to move somewhere farther. And me being the type of person, I don't want to abandon my friends. I don't want to abandon what's going on. So I was like, yeah, I got to go with my dad. I got to rock with my dad. I got to be cool with him, and just continue to follow my journey, follow my path. Because, I'm from New York. I would never, ever, ever leave my hometown. And I would always find my way back just like that, even if I'm not there right now. So, you know.
And what was her reason back then for wanting to move out further?
Basically, I guess it was noise. Like, she just didn't really like how New York had so much loudness. Like, she just didn't really feel it no more. And, it just got too out of control for her.
Okay, so let's back up the history of you just a little bit further. So, born, raised in Brooklyn till about 15, then you moved to Queens. How long do you remain in Queens for?
I'd say about 2 years.
Okay. And then after that, where did life take you?
I went back to visit my mom and just stayed there for a little bit, just try to expand my content a little bit more because, I want to be worldwide. I want people to recognize me everywhere, just instead of being in one spot. Like, for me, I always have love for New York, but, just in that time setting, like, I just wanted to move around. Like, I'm in North Carolina and I'm in Atlanta. Like, I'm just everywhere.
And do you want to share the area of that where your mom was at the time?
She was also in Brooklyn.
Okay, so just a little curious here, just to avoid any confusion. She moves out of Brooklyn and then moves back to Brooklyn at some point while you were in Queens?
Nah, she just stayed there. She stayed in North Carolina.
Okay, got it. And then after that?
After that, I was with my dad, and then after some time, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just visit my mom, see what it's like down there, try to stay with her a little bit, just try to get my content pushing around from different audiences and different spectacles and see what's, how is it looking like on my end.
And that was in Brooklyn?
Queens to visiting my mom in North Carolina.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned you had gone back to Brooklyn for a second.
Nah, Queens for a second, yeah.
Okay, got you. All right. And then after North Carolina, you started just traveling all over the place?
Yeah, I just started traveling.
Now, when it came to Brooklyn, did it get any more specific for you? Where you were born or where you were raised? More so where you were raised. I shouldn't have said where you were born. So did it get any more specific for you in Brooklyn where you were raised?
Not really. I was basically born in Bed-Stuy, feel me? Like, I was going to school. I had like a elementary school across the street from my house. So, from there, I was just going to school right there. I used to go to the park down the block. I used to meet certain people and stuff. And I was just like, like, this is basically my style, like my life, how I carry myself, obviously I'm from the hood and stuff, but, after a while, I was like, yeah, it's time to just take myself serious with content and see what I could really do. So, from Brooklyn, I was just going around, going outside with my friends to the city, and then coming back home right in Brooklyn in my house and making sure that I was posting videos every single day.
Was there a name to this hood of yours back then?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Well, yeah, was there a name to this hood of yours back then?
I'd say Bed-Stuy. It's just Bed-Stuy. Bed-Stuy is basically the hood.
Now, you've already shed some light on this, but we'll ask you formally here in case you want to add on a little bit further than what you said, and if not, we'll just move forward. But what was that really like, growing up in Bed-Stuy for you?
Man, Bed-Stuy, it was Whew, I will say it wasn't as bad, but it did have some ups and downs basically, because with me, if anybody that lives in Bed-Stuy or Brooklyn, y'all know how Brooklyn get down. Feel me? They don't play. They're always on time, and so for you to witness certain things, it was just like, damn, like, certain people, it's violence everywhere. I'm not going to pinpoint and say it's not violence in one particular location. It's violence everywhere. But Brooklyn, Brooklyn get active. Brooklyn get crazy. So for me, the fact that I was seeing like, certain things, I used to be like, damn, I seen it, but I was like, nah, I just got to keep pushing forward. But I ain't gonna lie, like Brooklyn, it's not a bad, like where I was at, it wasn't really that bad, but still sometimes it was hectic. But I was just a regular nigga on the block chilling. I used to go to the store, had ox make me a chopped cheese, all types of sandwiches. I was just a kid, just chilling, having fun on the game. Trash talking people on the game, everywhere. I was just chilling. I was just a regular kid chilling right in my house, and that was it.
What game?
Old Fortnite, just all the games that people used to play back then. Like, I used to just be chilling like a regular kid. 2K, I was a 2K head at one point. I used to get on 2K with my cousins. We used to be playing 2K. I was just chilling. But now I don't really play games no more.
Why not? What happened there?
Honestly, like when I didn't really start social media, like I was on the game like crazy. Like, mind you, I didn't really grow up with siblings. Like, I didn't really have siblings in my circle. Like, I didn't really grow up with siblings, like a brother or a sister. So, I was just basically the only nigga alone. I was just playing games all the time, just, trying to meet people online. And it was just like, damn, like, why not do content and have certain people in my circle that can uplift me and I could uplift them instead of just playing the game all day, because I don't want to play the game all day. It's just after one point it gets boring. So I realized, nah, like the game gets boring. But sometimes I do be on a game. I do be on a game now, but all day I can't be on a game all day. And when I was a kid, I was on the game like crazy. I was a game head, bro. Yeah.
Now, when it came to siblings, you had siblings, you just didn't live with them, or you literally didn't have any
I
siblings?
literally didn't have siblings. I was the only child.
And you mentioned cousins here, cousins that were on the mother's side of your family or father's side?
Mother's side.
And when it came to Bed-Stuy for you, how long did you live in Bed-Stuy specifically? Was it up until the age of 15 for you?
Yeah, it was until the age of 15.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you seen some things. What was the worst thing you experienced in Bed-Stuy?
The worst thing I've seen, it was a lot of like fights, like big, large group of fights. I remember one time I was sleeping and in the middle of the street, I seen a whole big altercation happen, a whole bunch of fighting. And then, mind you, I just woke up just to use the bathroom, and I hear people just down the block screaming and doing all that weird, crazy shit. So I was like, nah. I was looking through my window, mind you. I'm just like this. Mind you, I'm making myself look like I'm not really there, but I'm watching. And it's like, damn, like I'm seeing people fighting, and I'm like, oh my God. I used to be like, Mom, look at them, they fighting out there. And I was just like, damn, like it's just crazy. I'm not going outside to go to no store. I'm not getting in the way of none. I'm not being in no fire, no type of fight, none of that. So, I just used to be a kid in my room, and I used to just chill, just watch everything from my window.
Now, you've already shed some light on this answer, but we'll formally still ask you in case you want to add on to what you've already said. And if not, again, we'll just move forward. But what was that really like, being the only child?
Man, being the only child, it's like when you're the only child, you do have a lot of privileges to yourself. You're free to, move around accordingly. Like, you don't really have siblings bothering you when, fighting over things. But I ain't gonna lie, it's been lonely times where I didn't have no siblings, like, to really laugh with. I was just the only kid in my room, just chilling on the game. But, I always wanted siblings, to mess around with, to have fun, to do certain things that siblings do up till now. Like, I never had siblings growing up, but, can't really get mad at that. It is what it is, and yeah, just gotta move with life still. But Having siblings was a con. Having siblings was a con, and it wasn't a con. Like it was a siblings having siblings was a pro, and it was a con. So I didn't have siblings growing up, but I wish I did so I could experience what other people are going through when they have siblings. You feel me? So yeah,
And still to this day, no siblings.
no siblings.
Would you ask your parents for another sibling?
Nah, it's too much.
But even back in those days, did you ask your parents, "Hey, can I get a baby brother? Can I get a baby sister?"
Yep, but they used to be lazy about it. They never wanted to make one, so I was like, all right, it's cool.
But what was their response to you when you would ask that?
They used to be like, "Oh, I'll think about it." But then I used to come up to them the next day, be like, "Did you think about it?" And I used to be on some. So I used to be like, "All right, cool. It don't really matter to me."
Now, what was the biggest lesson you learned from being the only child? What was your biggest takeaway from that experience there?
The biggest takeaway about being the only child was to really move independent. Like, independency is everything. So when you move independent, you really see growth in yourself. Like, since I didn't have any siblings, I was doing everything on my own. There was no routine with cleaning with siblings. Like, mind you, I was always doing certain things on my own, cleaning on my own, doing stuff on my own, just having a lot of responsibilities on my own. I didn't really have any other siblings to have any responsibilities with me to do certain things. We didn't really work as a group if there were siblings, so it was just me alone doing it. You feel me?
Now, growing up, what was the top point for you
The top point?
during your upbringing? Yes, what was your highest point or most positive moment growing up in Bed-Stuy?
The highest point growing up was that, I would always just have certain people that supported me doing what I was doing. Like, for those who don't know, like I did start off dancing, and dancing has always been like my go-to, like, getting sturdy. This is what, if you're from New York, then y'all know that for me, getting sturdy was always some fun to do. Right now it's not really so fun, but my highest point was, putting myself on social media, on TikTok, and really getting sturdy, moving fast, and doing all those cool dances and stuff. Just meeting certain people along the way that was also doing it, and I'm really grateful that I was able to learn from them too, from certain things, and I was just like, damn, like like I'm able to do what they're doing, and I could really go viral. So I was just mostly in my house getting sturdy and doing a lot of things, and just just chilling. And the lowest points of doing, like, being in there and being in Bed-Stuy and just doing content, obviously, when you have a strict mom, it's like, you couldn't really be outside for too long, Man, oh man, the times I had to get home like this, I had to rush on the train like this, I had to think I was Flash, I had to just run, like, literally, she used to be like, yo, you have to meet my timestamp, 7:30, and I'm just rushing, I'm going home, I'm running, and I see the time 7:27. I'm like, bet I gotta run, like I gotta sprint, and I had to be in the house exactly at 7:30, and I'm like, damn, bro, like, I just couldn't win sometimes because she used to be on me like, you gotta get home at a certain time, like you gotta be home at a certain time. I don't want you outside too late. But for me, I understand because obviously I was young, and she didn't want nothing bad happening to me, so I definitely see why. But certain times I was getting my content, I had to put an alarm on my phone to make sure that I was getting home at a certain time, so I don't get in trouble. And yeah, I say that was like really my lowest point.
What was the punishment if you didn't adhere to that?
Oh man, the punishment, I wouldn't go outside for one day basically, or what she would do is she'll make my time even lesser. So instead of me going outside, I gotta make sure I'm like this every minute. So for me, I was like, damn, like I gotta keep time management 24/7. Like I gotta be on the go like I'm Flash, just like that. But yeah, that was basically the punishment. Sometimes I couldn't go outside until she said yes, basically.
Now, do you think that style of living for you helped or hurt your content back then?
I'd say both because, I had certain people that I was doing content with. And, my boy Zay, shout out to my boy Zay, man. Like, when I first met him in 2021, like, we was always going places. Like, he's older than me. So, he always had my back through everything, making sure that I was Gucci. Nobody ever tested us, played us when we were outside. Because, if you live in New York City, you know how New York gets sometimes. So for me, it's like at the end of the day, like, you know, that's my brother. We was always outside, you know, getting content. So, you know, I told my mom at one point, I was like, yo, like, for me, like, it's my boy Zay. Like, you know, he's starting off doing content. We both just started doing content. You know, sometimes we would go outside early and we would come back at a certain time. Sometimes, yes, we did miss, you know, certain timestamps that I was supposed to be home. But, you know, after a while, it just got to a point where I just had to keep explaining myself over and over that I'm Gucci, you know, I'm good. Like, my brother's with me, you know, I'm good.
Now, you mentioned TikTok here, and again, you've mentioned this in previous portions of questions, but just in case those are tuning in just for this portion of questions specifically, care to share your screen name on TikTok once again?
My screen name?
TikTok.com/.
TikTok.com/MaruNyc_ chat.
Now, what age did dancing start for you?
Dancing, it started off when I was 14, 15. So 14, I really started, and then 15, still kept going with it.
And what led to dancing for you? Because there's some kids who don't get into that.
Basically, for those who don't know, like, you know, listening to drill music like Pop Smoke, you know, certain drill people that, you know, you get shiggy to, like, you feel me, I'm getting sturdy right now, like, you feel me, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, you know, when we seen certain people like Pop Smoke, Fabio Foreign, Busy Banks, all those type of people, you know, putting out music, you know, it was a way for us, like, New Yorkers, to really get sturdy. So, like, for me, it's just like a little, you bouncing with the rhythm of the beat. So, basically, you know, on TikTok, it became a little trend where people would start getting sturdy, like, you know, they start getting crafty and stuff. And it's like, you know, my boy Zay, Zay, you feel me? He started doing sturdy first. Like, for me, he was on quarantine. And mind you, you know, he was getting sturdy at first, and mind you, I was going through my tough times, and I was just like, damn, I'm seeing him go viral for doing the sturdy stuff. So I was like, you know what? I said, he's going viral. I said, why not follow after him and do the same thing too? And it 10 out of 10, it worked for everybody. You feel me? Because I seen everybody else started doing sturdy. So mind you, this is basically like a sturdy dance for New York. Like, basically everybody was coming on the app, recording, doing whatever they wanted to do, getting sturdy and stuff. So, you know, at the time, you know, 2021, 2022, you know, sturdy became like a big thing for everybody, and everybody was going outside of Times Square. They was getting crafty, they was getting lit. So, you know, it was just, if you know, you know, like, sturdy really became popping in 2021, and from there, it was just like, all right, cool. Like, you know, we're gonna keep it going. You know, every time we go out there, we just gonna show a vibe and be lit and have fun. And come up with different moves too as well.
But there are some kids that are attracted to doing music or doing art or doing sports. For you, it was dancing?
Yeah, it was dancing at first. But then now, I don't dance anymore, as y'all can see, or whoever watches me. I don't dance no more. I do comedy skits. I do funny stuff now, because at a certain point, you know, nobody wants to see sturdy stuff. But 2022 to 2023, I blew up with my boy Zay. We did a video in Times Square, and, you know, it was basically us, you know, dabbing people up on the red stairs. And, you know, for me, I was mostly talented with sturdy, but I was going super fast. Like, I was going fast. Like, you wouldn't even see my legs before I'm getting sturdy. So I was getting sturdy super duper fast. Like, I was quicksilver. Like, you couldn't see me getting sturdy. But for me, I was crafty with it. I was moving so fast with it that, you know, it just attracted people, and it was like, damn, like, this nigga going fast as hell. Like, sometimes what I do is I put icy hot on my leg, and I used to just apply that shit on. I used to be going fast. And that's what attracted a lot of people. So a lot of people was like, damn, like, this nigga getting sturdy, but he just doing it in a faster way, a faster version. So that's what really picked up the audience's attention. It was like, damn, like, this nigga's really going crazy. But in 2021, I was doing the basics, but then I was like, you know what? Let me advance it a little bit. Let me go super duper fast and see how people react and how people think of it. And, you know, from the looks of it, people did hate on it a little bit, but mostly outside looking at it, people seen it and they caught on it. It's like, damn, like, this nigga's creative as hell for doing that. Like, you know, I'm going outside in the city, and I'm, you know, what people used to do was they used to put their phone down and dance. But I learned from my boy Archer. You know, I seen my boy Archer doing videos, routines where they were getting sturdy. And what I did with my boy Zay was, you know, how everybody had their phones down, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just pick my phone up and I'm gonna just record the whole background. And from there, when I recorded the whole background, they saw the whole scenery. They saw me get started. We were basically freestyling. What my boy Archer and them was doing, Archer, Dre, Shafar, they was basically doing routines on how they did the sturdy stuff. But with me, I was much of a freestyle guy. So I was like, you know what? I'm just to start freestyling and doing what I do with my boy Zay. Like we both was crafty, so we was like, all right, bet we just gonna see what it do. And then from there, video hit 122 million on TikTok, YouTube 268 mil, and on Instagram it hit like a good 3 mil. So that was really surprising that I actually like grown from doing certain videos and doing certain recording techniques.
And you've already mentioned this in previous portions of questions, but just in case those are tuning in for the very first time to this set of questions here, can you share the channel name on YouTube that you're referencing, as well as the screen name on IG as well?
On YouTube, it's no underscore. It's just fully MaruNyc, and on Instagram, it's MaruNyc_.
Now, let's zoom out for a second. Can you define sturdy?
Sturdy? All right. So, so for people who don't know, like sturdy is just like, I feel like sturdy is basically like what Pop Smoke originated. Like he created the woo walk, but we just call it sturdy because we found the way to make certain dance moves different. Like people were doing this. Like Pop Smoke really started the whole woo walk movement, but we started doing the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and started getting sturdy. So that's when we just called it. All right, that's sturdy. Like we just getting sturdy, we getting crafty, and yeah, that's how sturdy basically originated from certain genre rappers like Pop Smoke and other people, Chef G, Sleepy Hollow, and it was just like we're just gonna create a wave where people getting sturdy. Instead of doing this, we just gonna do it back and forth, and that's when it just really blew up from there.
But who are you referencing when you say we? We did this. We did this.
Like New York as a whole, like
Okay.
certain people in New York who was dancing.
But when it came to your fast motions or fast pace of the sturdiness and things of that nature, if I'm saying that right, did you invent that?
Technically, I say yeah, I did invent that, and then other people started doing it as well. People started going fast as well.
So you're claiming that right here.
I'm claiming that right now. I was the first person to rub icy hot on my leg and go super, super, super fast.
Now, are you officially retired from sturdy or dancing or whatever the correct phrase is there?
Yeah, I say I'm officially retired because after a while I realized that people complained about seeing the same thing over and over, and I was just like, damn, like I gotta switch my audience to see something different. I know they got tired of me. Basically, what I was doing was, I was going around dapping people up, like I was high-fiving people before I started getting sturdy. So when I was in New York, like Times Square or other different locations in New York, I would always just dap people up. Me and my boy Zay, we would always just dap people up before we start dancing. So, we was just getting sturdy. We was, getting crafty. And then after a while, once we kept promoting, because, we were hitting millions of views every week. Every day we was getting good views, good engagement. But then after a while, I guess, people just caught on like, damn, like these guys just doing the same thing over again. So, I was like, damn, what, like, what if they right? Like, for me, I feel like I've been seeing myself do the same thing over again. And for people who know me, like, off the media, like, they've been telling me, I'm naturally funny. Like, I don't even try to be funny. Even though sometimes I'm just like, damn, am I funny for real? But then, I just be like, you know what? I'm about to just do whatever. I'm about to see what skits do for me, doing comedy stuff. And I was just like, damn, like, I really just did it. And then from there, I switched over from where I did videos with the security guard, and that's what really just topped everything. And that's how I was just able to create more skits and just be more authentic with my comedy skits.
And what's been the reaction to the comedy side of things?
I ain't gonna lie, like they just tell me like I'm funny, like I'm just a funny nigga, man. Like you feel me? I'm a funny unemployed rat, I'm just a funny nigga. So, people seen that and it's like, nah, like you gotta keep doing more skits, bro. Like you gotta start throwing out more skits. Keep doing it, you feel me? That's your talent, that's your division, that's your department. Like just keep doing it, you feel me?
The high five and things of that nature, did you invent that as well?
Nah, I didn't invent that. My boy Archer, Dre, and Shafar, they really created that. But, I used it and I just took it into my own consideration of just freestyling into my own sturdy way.
Now, aside from the icy hot and inventing that and claiming that here during this interview, is there anything else that you invented in that social media, that content creation career path of yours? Is there anything else you want to claim that you did first?
Nah, that'd be all, cause Sturdy wasn't, it wasn't really too big of something to invent, but Sturdy did, I would say that I came up with certain moves and stuff like that, while getting Sturdy, cause when you get Sturdy, now, like how it was in 2021, it's not like that now, like 2022, certain people started using different like movements, they started doing different, different creative dances to combine it with Sturdy.
Do you want to mention or claim any particular moves?
Nah, that'd be all.
Okay, now you did say you had a bottom point with the content creation, but let's zoom out even further. Did you have a bottom point just living and experiencing Bed-Stuy?
Living in Bed-Stuy, like
You mentioned seeing some people fighting outside. Would you say that was your bottom point of your experience with Bed-Stuy in the first 15 years of your life, or was there something even worse than that?
something worse was just like, getting home late at a certain time, because back to what my mom was doing, she was just trying to make sure that I was good. And when I was younger, I couldn't really be outside too late because, at a certain time when it was too late, you see weird stuff that you don't want to see, like fighting and just weird people coming up to you, strangers that you don't know. So now that I'm older, I'm already knowing like what's going on. I know how to move. But then it's like when I was younger, I was just, I was rushing. I was just too excited to go outside and not really pay attention to certain things that happen in the hood. You feel me?
Now, do you have any kids yourself at this point?
Nah, I'm not ready for no kids. I'm not ready for no kids at all. I don't plan on having no kids anytime soon.
Any time in your life?
I probably say until I'm like 30.
Now, let's speak hypothetically here, okay? In the event you do want children or you do have children, do you think you'll have more than one because you yourself grew up as the only child?
Yeah, I say I have one or two. One or two is not bad. I can't have like a whole full house, but I say 1 to 2 kids would be best lenient for me.
And because you grew up in a strict upbringing as you described, do you think you would implement that same strictness if you were a parent on the opposite end of the spectrum? Or would you be a little different based on
I'll
your
be a little
experience
different
under that?
because certain things that I didn't really get growing up, I want to make sure that my kids would have grown up. Like, I want to make sure that when my kids come out the womb, that they're already famous, they're already lit. You feel me? And yeah, I just want to make sure that certain things that I didn't really get to have or I didn't really experience as a kid for real, I want to make sure that they already have it by the time they already come out and they already see it happening for them.
What about the strictness element? Would you still carry on that same strictness that you endured, or would you be more lenient?
I'd say in between, like just in case, like they're messing up, I would definitely tell them that they're wrong and that they need to do better. So that's just me being a little tough on them, but I wouldn't be too strict at all. Like I wouldn't be strict at all. Like I would really spoil my kids because those are my kids. I want the best for them. I want to make them happy.
Now, how were you able to survive that upbringing in Bed-Stuy? Because there are some who don't make it.
I just had to really maneuver, like I said, I was with my brother Zay, so he's older than me. He was able to teach me certain things that I didn't really understand. So moving with him, he knows certain things more than me. So I was just like, I'm outside with him. I gotta really pay attention, see how certain people move outside. The scenario, the scenery, background, everything. I just had to really pay attention to my surroundings and just make sure that I'm really attentive and I'm really aware of what's going on.
Now, there are also people who say sometimes, don't know if I'll make it to see the age of 18, 21, for example, things of that nature. Did you have any of those thoughts yourself growing up throughout Bed-Stuy?
I would say yes, and I would say no, because certain times, like I feel like, mind you, if you pray to God and you ask God for protection, you're good regardless. Like God's gonna make sure that he's walking with you wherever you go. So I'd say, it wasn't really of a stress, but sometimes, I did still think like, oh, I still have to be aware of my surroundings and be careful of, outside, because, you could be a random person and then boom, something just happened. And I'd say like I would just, when I was like younger, I would just say I used to get sick a lot sometimes, so I would overthink a little bit, like, oh no, like I hope nothing doesn't happen to me. But for the most part, I say nah, I'm chilling, I stay out the way, and I do what I do.
Now, be that as it may, knowing what you know now, hypothetically speaking, what would you have said to your younger self back then, if anything?
I would have told him, keep going, stay motivated, stay sharp, stay strong. I would have told him don't delete that YouTube channel, because I probably could have waited. The younger him could have probably made it way far than that if he didn't delete his YouTube channel. So I definitely would go back and just tell my younger self like, yo, like keep going, just keep striving, pay attention, just focus up and just get up and work for it. You feel me?
Now, I asked you a variety of questions here just about your upbringing. Is there anything else you want to mention about it, or a question you weren't asked people want to know just about that as well?
Nah.